Hello, I'm Whiskey 60, and this is the Whiskey 60 Overland channel. On episode 5, I showed you how I load my machine, types of gear, tools, equipment, so on and so forth. We weighed everything to make sure that we were not overweight. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the proper way to plan a trip, safety, rescue plan, and everything that goes into it. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back. On this episode, we're going to cover planning a multi-day solo overland trip. Today's guest is Spoon, 6.3, and then of course we have Bullet. And Bullet's going to go ahead and cover a few things and explain them, and I'm just going to let him take over. So, go ahead, Bullet.
It's cold!
What is the temperature?
Chilly.
It's
37.
Yeah.
37
And
degrees.
we're outside at Talk Spoon.
Yes.
So, the first thing that you need to know, whether you're overlanding or even just trail riding, is the MVUM. Now, in previous episodes that I've been involved with, and all of the encompassing beginner things that we have covered, we have not covered the MVUM. The MVUM is the Motor Vehicle Use Map, and it is not just for the state of Arkansas, it is nationwide. What the MVUM is basically the Bible concerning where you are allowed to operate your off-road vehicle, your OHV, whether it's an ATV or a side-by-side or a dirt bike.
Now, not to interrupt, but the MVUM saying that is the Bible, that is coming from National Forest Service
Yes.
representatives stating to us here at this house that is the Bible. Whether you think it's right or wrong, or this trail or that trail's closed or whatever, that is what they're going to consider to be right at that time, and can and will be referenced in court in the case of a legal matter.
Yes.
So I didn't mean to interrupt,
No.
but that's a point
No,
everybody needs
absolutely.
to know.
Yes. So, the three of us actually are in very good contact and have met with Ranger Heinzen, who is the Director of Recreation for the Big Piney District. And we have met him several times here at this house concerning a lot of different things. But, so getting back to the MVUM. So, we use Gaia. And we've referenced Gaia 100,000 times about that's what we use. The MVUM can be found on the National Forest Service website. And it is a free download. And it will tell you what trails are open, what trails are closed. It will tell you what vehicles are allowed on what surfaces. So concerning that, we get into the Arkansas state law concerning OHVs, which would be ATVs / side-by-sides or a UTV, whatever you choose to call it. So on Avenza or Maprika or whatever you use, the MVUM is kind of there. Now, we don't use any of those. We use Gaia. The reason we use Gaia is because every time the National Forest Service nationwide updates the MVUM, which is once a year, it automatically gets uploaded to Gaia. So, as far as our state laws, it's kind of a gray area where not sometimes you can operate an ATV or a side-by-side. The general rule is, and we've stated this before, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not giving legal advice. The broad rule is you can be on a state highway as long as the speed limit is 55 or below. Not an interstate. Know the difference. As long as you go from trailhead to trailhead within reason. That's the gray area in this state. Within reason. So, Polk County. Yeah, I know.
Don't get me started.
Polk County is a little more strict. So, within reason, amongst us, is somewhere in 10 miles, right? In a direct route, you exited this trail, 10 miles on pavement to the next trail. Now, we don't travel that amount of mileage on pavement.
On hardball, yeah.
Unless you absolutely have to, right? So, on Gaia, when you're going in to make your route, you can see every trail that ever existed in the in the nation in a national forest. Now, when we were talking with Danny Heinzen, they use the National Forest Service is provided with Avenza Pro.
Right. Yep.
When I pulled up Gaia on Spoon's laptop, and I showed Ranger Heinzen his trails that are admin-only trails, meaning the only people that are allowed to use those trails are National Forest Service employees.
Or support personnel.
Or support
during,
personnel.
During a certain event.
Right.
I.e. your firefighters, police
Yes.
officers, emergency workers.
Right.
During an emergency.
Right. Gaia shows his trails that he didn't even know were there because Avenza doesn't show them. Guess who uses Gaia now? So, that's
It's also showing trails that used to be there that were before his time.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
and he was like, I didn't know that was there.
Right, so-
We're like, oh, we've been on that trail. Like,
Right.
we're not supposed to. We're like, what are you gonna do about it? You know,
there are trails that show on Gaia that no longer exist. Now, we'll probably do a deep dive into Gaia at a later time. But for overlanding, planning your route, you're going to want to use the MVUM. Regardless of whether you're using Maprika, Avenza, Onyx, whatever your app/program of choice is, the MVUM is your Bible. That is what tells you whether you are right or whether you are wrong.
It's law.
That is the law.
Yeah.
That's legally right, legally wrong. You're rolling through a trail that, you know, Onyx off-road or something says, this is open as a legal trail, but the MVUM says it's a closed trail, admin only, and a game warden, or Polk County deputy, or
Right.
Van Buren County deputy, or Yale County deputy, or a forest ranger says, you can't be out here and write you a ticket. That ticket's going to hold up in court if the MVUM says, this is a closed trail. You can't be
Right.
here.
It doesn't matter whatever.
Yeah, everything
you know,
else
Right.
says the
Right.
MVUM is
Law.
legal,
Right.
and it's law.
Right.
So, the next thing we need to talk about is the route.
Right. So playing the route, what we're going to do is you're going to go into, we use Gaia. You're going to go into Gaia and you're going to find your starting point and you're going to find where you want to go. What is your objective? Let's say it's Ozark. Okay. So what you're going to do, you're going to find the beginning, you're going to find the end, and then you're going to go through and you're going to route yourself to there based on
The MVUM,
the MVUM, and what else?
the number of days that it's going to take you, how many miles, fuel, your food plan. So are you planning on bringing a cooler? If you are, how much does that cooler weigh?
How long is the ice going to last?
Right. Dry goods. Are you going to bring a cooler to overland with, or are you going to pack dry goods? When we did my stay put bag, go back, I think that was episode 4.
4, yes.
So episode 4, we went through my stay put bag, and that'll give you some ideas of what I would pack in my stay put bag, which would kind of be the same thing as I would pack for a multi-day overlanding trip. The next thing is actually the safety plan.
Right.
So we've talked about the spot device.
Right.
If you have
Really cool.
Communication,
Right.
radio.
if you have a spot device and something happens, be it medical or mechanical, and you have a spot device, you can easily send a message that you're broke down or you need medical attention, and it automatically sends your GPS location
Your coordinates
for
and a map.
right
Actual
for
map.
search and rescue. So if you don't have a spot, like, so Whiskey has a spot, I do not, Spoon does not, right? So in that case, you have to go through extra lengths to make sure that you're safe, that we're safe,
Right.
right? Because we do a lot of this adventuring on our own,
Right.
on our own.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're also, we don't have, we've talked about before, we don't have good cell phone service out there. So when we plan,
You don't have any cell phone
You don't
service.
have any.
Right, right. So when we plan this, we just presume that we're not going to have any cell phone service.
Right. The first thing the one of the three of us is going to do, if Whiskey is going on a trip, Whiskey is going to contact myself and Spoon. And he's going to use Gaia to make his route. The next thing he's going to do is send us the GPX file, because we can now download his route. So we know the safety route. With that and the phone call or the text, he is going to say, I'm going to be gone for X amount of days. This is when I expect to have service when I'm done with my trip, so that we know when to expect him out of the woods and have service to let us know that he's out and he's okay. He's also going to give us a reasonable time between him, should he miss his check-in time, a reasonable amount of time. We'll say usually it's about 3 hours.
Right. It also depends on the person. Now, I'm a little bit different than these guys. I've got some medical issues. So, in Bullet's case, we'd probably give them 3 hours. In my case, probably an hour.
Yeah, I'd say hour and a half, 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what it boils down to, you have soft time and hard time, and that's the best way to put it. Is, hey, my soft time coming back in 3 days is 4 p.m. soft time. But if you haven't heard from me by 7 p.m.,
Now you're going to come
So
looking.
now you've got a 3 p.m. soft time, 7 p.m. hard time, or whatever. So it's like soft time. Okay, now we're at soft time. We've met it. We haven't heard from them. Let's start the clock. Now we're going to the hard time. All right, let's
go
let's
time.
start getting our
Right.
It's
our
go time.
rescue plan
Right.
in action.
Right.
Which is, we kind of talked about the rescue plan when we talked about the the stay put bag.
Right.
Right. How we have it designed so that the three of us know how to identify. So once that hard time hits and you have missed it, one or the two of the three of us, and this could be with any of your friends, any of your family, anybody. It doesn't even need to be somebody in a side-by-side community. It just needs to be somebody who you have alerted or told that you're going somewhere. If you're not an off-roader, you can get a hold of the National Forest Service and tell them somebody missed their time. Right. You need to go looking. However, here's the kicker. When you leave, and this is something that we figured out with Gaia. So if you don't have a spot device, you don't have cell signal, maybe you have a medical emergency, maybe you just have a breakdown that is preventing you from finishing your trip. We have found out that we'll give a, for instance, if Whiskey breaks down on Gaia, because it's satellite, he can mark on there and put a waypoint where his machine is broken down. He can go set up camp and mark where he set up camp. In the notes section, because you can now save it, there's a little notes section. Now he knows that he's going to miss his hard time. And he's going to be staying for the night. Or even an extra night. So he can go in there and type in on the iPad or his iPhone, tablet, whatever you may have, type in the notes. Broke down, I'm fine, and give you the details, right? Yep. Once you save that, you log out of Gaia. Now, if you trust somebody enough with your life, like I trust these guys, right, you can trust them with your username and your password.
Right. Yeah.
Because now you've missed your hard time, and the first thing I'm going to do is, because you got, depending on time, I'm going to go in and log in to Dan's account. I'm going to log into Spoon's account, or one of them or both of them are going to log into my account. And the last track that I saved is going to be at the top. Now, the reason it's important to record your track is because should there be a route that you had planned, but now that trail, road, something is closed, and you have to divert for whatever reason and get on another trail. Now they can see how and where exactly you went. Right, exactly. And that is extremely important for people to know. It's safety. Right. We're not trying to scare anybody from going out and adventuring, but we all know.
Yes, we've been there.
We've been there. Where you might need that help. Yeah. I had to call Spoon. I broke my A-arm.
I've had to do it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. And that the caveat on the spot device, when he sent me a text message on my phone from the spot device, hey, I broke down, come get me. It included the GPS coordinates. I clicked it, and my phone asked me, open with, Google Maps or whatever. Google Maps, it took me within half a mile of you.
No, you were closer than that, because...
well, it took me down all the main roads it could, and then I had to figure out, it's the direction he's south of me. Oh, there's a trail here. I went down that trail, and I found him. Right. And then, of course, by the time I got there, you had already cooked deer burgers and all that, because you were prepared. Hey, you want a deer burger? Right. No, I want to go home. Right. But, because it's a 15-minute drive home.
And the bonus to having the spot device and or using Gaia in that manner is because it will give the latitude and longitude.
All right, so the other thing that you have to take in consideration, let's say Bullet's out on a trip. He sends me the GPS. Okay. Let's say he's going from Brock Creek all the way to Ork or Buckhorn. All right. So when you get that GPX, before he leaves, you should do a visual on that GPX track and say, if he breaks down just before, say, the Ork area, how long is it going to take me to respond to get to
Yes,
Right.
That is another
Right.
point
Yes.
that I was going to bring
it?
up.
Right. Or if he breaks down in Buckhorn, how long is it going to take me to get to that track? So you might want to lower your hard time a little bit, your soft time. Now, if he's just up here at the Brock Creek campground, he's broke down. Well, it takes me 20 minutes to get there.
Right.
But yeah, that's a great point. I was going to bring up is not only you have to figure out or factor in how long do I plan on staying out here, and how long do I plan on, if something happens to stay out here, how long is it going to take for my personal response people to get there?
Which is where your circle of friends.
Right.
So
but if it's in the middle of the
Right.
day and my buddy over here is like, he knows where I'm at, but
Right.
he don't get off work for another 4 hours,
Right.
and then it's still going to take him another 2 hours to get here.
Right. And the person that's coming to help you also needs to be set up for a couple days of food, gear, tents, all that. It may take them an overnight just to get to you.
But that's why we have our bags ready.
Right.
So this is just experience talking.
So, in the scenario or possibility, let's say they're past their hard time of when they were supposed to return. You log into Gaia, there's nothing there. You get on the radio, use your comms, there's nothing there. You look at your text messages, all your things to tell you for them a way to message you, there's nothing there. But you have the original track of where they were going. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and head out, you're going to follow that track, and there's one thing that you're looking for. If you have not had communication, there's one thing you're looking for. If they have deviated from that track, there's going to be a sign. We're going to...
That's our plan.
Right, that's our plan. But I just wanted to tell them it's a good way to do it.
Right.
If there's no communication whatsoever, we take fluorescent 550 cord, fluorescent yellow, and we take 3 wraps. Now, 3 wraps around a branch or a tree means I've changed direction. I went this way.
Right, that is the direction I went.
Right. Now, 1 wrap is just showing you the route. So if you come to a crossroads, you should be able to look around and say, okay, I continue straight because I can see the next wrap up there. Right. So that's a good way to do it.
Right.
And that's the way we do it. So go ahead, Bill.
Well, and here's the good thing about Gaia, because if you go into the route that you're on, here's where your camp is, where you're broke down, whatever it may be, they can start sort of a new route and gauge. They're going to put a route over top of your route.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can go, okay, they started here, here's where they're at, and this is how many miles they are from their starting point. So if I start at their starting point, this is how many miles I have to go, and this is how long I expect it
It should take.
to get there.
Right.
The important thing, and Whiskey and I have we've discussed it in almost every video, and how important this safety plan is.
It is.
Especially if you're traveling solo. Now, if the 3 of us or the 2 of us, any of the 2 of us are traveling together, which we also do a lot, you have that second person. So that this safety plan is not necessarily as important because you have 2 people.
Right.
Because if your machine breaks down, and all 3 of us are pretty well versed in medical emergencies, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Self-rescue, self-treatment.
Exactly. So, but if you have 2 people, either Whiskey and I, Spoon and Whiskey, doesn't make a difference. That medical knowledge is there. So that person knows whether or not they need to get in touch with search and rescue, National Forest Service, whoever they need to get in touch with. Again, we're not trying to scare you, trying to prepare you, because overlanding is not. This actually pertains to just going out trail riding for a day.
Yes, and it can happen. It happened to us.
You go out trail riding for a day, and that's why we talked about the stay put bag. I'm going to go out trail riding for the day, but I've always got that stay put bag because I may end up in the woods overnight.
Right.
Stuff happens. Stuff happens all the time. If stuff didn't happen all the time randomly, you wouldn't have fire departments.
Right.
Or rescue services or emergency personnel. It happens, and we're just trying to help. Be prepared.
Right.
And you can't carry everything with you at all times, but you can contact people who do try to carry more than what you normally would.
Right.
And that's what this is all about: is learning how to track where you're going. A good program to have to track where you're going, how to share it with people who know how to get to you and know what they're doing, and having that good, knowledgeable support group of, hey, I'm broke down, I got bad gas, or I've completely destroyed my rig, or I got a broke leg, or whatever. It's having that group of people that don't go to Starbucks every day and I don't know what I'm doing. They need to know what they're doing as well, and they know how to get to you, know how to find you, and know what to bring.
That's right.
When you do call that SOS.
Right.
That's right.
If I just show up with just my rig and he's stuck in the mud, I ain't doing no good. I can't pull him out. If I show up and he's bleeding or he's got a broke leg and I don't know how to splint it, I'm not doing any good. I'm just there for moral support and hand him a beer. And so it's that whole resourceful and rescue mentality that we all need to be in.
The off-road community, as far as ATVs or side-by-sides is concerned, is actually it's pretty large.
Yeah,
and the number of people
community.
that so I'll throw out the Facebook page for the Arkansas OHV Trail Riders. I have met in person so many people from that page, and they're from all over the state.
And out of state, too.
Most of them have,
Oklahoma's, the surrounding states, they'll come down here to ride.
Most of them have parked in my yard.
Right. So as far as the Arkansas community is concerned, if I'm somewhere up near Fayetteville, I'm out somewhere near Buckhorn, right? If they can't get to where I'm at, or they don't think they can get to where I'm at in a reasonable time, they can actually get on Facebook and post
the coordinates.
So I know for a fact that the owners of High Lifter ATV, they're in Fayetteville. They ride side by side.
Right. And the Buckhorn page too. There's a Buckhorn.
Right. There's a.
You could post it on there.
Right.
We got
so outside of your immediate contacts, your immediate contacts have the resources that they need to get you out safely. They can contact somebody to get you out of the woods while they're on their way by highway.
Just pick your rig up. Yeah.
Right.
And I was just going to say that if you've got the track and they send you their coordinates, well, it doesn't make sense to start the track off from one and take 2 days to get there. If they're near a highway, like up around Ork or Buckhorn, you just trailer to get there as fast as you can. But in the meantime, you've got the locals that know these tracks, and they can get to them faster. So.
So there's you as far as the safety plan and all of that, there is a large community outside of your other contact or your other two contacts to help you out. That's why having I keep saying it. It doesn't matter if it's a multi-day overlanding
Right.
trip. Just a day trip,
Day trip.
I can do, and we've done it.
Yeah.
We've done 150 miles
150 miles in
in a
one
day.
day.
Yeah.
And that's so much time and opportunity for stuff to go south.
So,
Right.
It can.
so
Right.
just the route we took on the OHMT going to Max Pines
Yeah.
was 130 or 140 miles,
136.
and that
138
was
miles, yeah.
that was all just trail riding.
Yeah.
So anywhere in that 136 miles, you could break down.
That's right.
Flat tire,
That's
broke
right.
axle, broke U-joint, broke
Right.
tie rod.
The Ozarks is so diverse.
Unforgiving.
That's pretty unforgiving.
It can be. Is so diverse in its terrain, and we've talked about it before. It is so diverse, and depending on your skill level
Confidence level.
and confidence, we've
Yeah.
talked about that too.
Confidence level,
Confidence
yeah.
level, your skill level, and your machine capability,
Right.
right? Some of these trails, I'm not even gonna lie, they're punishing.
Yes.
And it takes,
Pretty brutal.
it's very technical.
Yeah,
in
and they
places.
can
It
be mentally and physically exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It really is, because at the end of the day of riding, I'm like numb. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, just numb.
Yeah.
I mean, now if you're riding 130 miles on dirt roads, you just
Yeah.
drove 130 miles on dirt roads.
Yeah.
But 80 miles on some of these
Dude.
trails, you
That-
might as well have
that
ridden
80
to.
miles-
It beats you up.
That
It
80
does.
miles we did in that 10-hour day.
Yeah,
Where I got back here and I was like, man, I've been to Ranger School and I
Yeah.
smoked like
yeah.
holy crap.
It literally
Like,
it takes
man.
it out of
Right.
you
Yeah.
does.
because
Dude.
and
Yeah.
mentally and physically, because you're the mental part of it is the technical challenge of some of these
Yeah.
trails.
That's
And
right.
and we've
The
we've
physical
done,
part
yeah.
is the controlling the machine while you're
Yeah.
rock crawling
Let
Right.
it just
and bouncing around.
beating
Right.
around. It,
Right.
your
while
body's taking a
trying to
beating.
do a technical.
Yeah, your body's taking a beat,
Right.
and also that ties into your supplies. That we can deep dive into nutrition and hydration and whatnot for that, and if we wanted to, or at another time. But it's a physical toll
It is.
just going out and riding for half a day or
Yeah.
a day or a multi-day trip. Because not only after an 8 or 10-hour day of riding, if you're doing a multi-day trip, then you got to set up camp.
Yeah.
Then
That's
you gotta
Collect
cut
firewood.
wood,
Yeah.
firewood.
Yeah.
You gotta set up a fire. You gotta cook. You gotta set up, a perimeter and security and whatnot.
Yep.
And
Right.
then you gotta try to sleep in an unknown environment.
Right.
Then you gotta wake up and figure and then
Right.
pack it all up and do
So-
it again.
Right. So one of the things that you want to do, in case you break down or whatever, and you're by yourself, don't ride until dark. Give yourself
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple. give
About an
yourself
hour,
at
hour and a
least,
half. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
set up camp, get squared away, and so on and so forth.
To tie back in to piggyback off the Gaia map system, which is phenomenal map system. But if you don't have that and your rescue resources don't have that, you can go into another app or resource like what me and my people have coming from
Oh,
the
yeah.
off-road park community of like Carter's and Greasy Bend is the Lost Riders app.
Yeah.
And that is it's not a mapping or route mapping app or anything. It is a
Locate.
tracking app
Right.
of, hey, so-and-so over here is lost in this area. They can hit the literal SOS button, and it tags out to everybody
Right.
that has the Lost Riders app in that area,
It is.
and they can go find them.
It is
Right.
literally the equivalent off-road version of, if you've heard of Life 360.
Yeah, Life 360.
It
Yeah.
is.
It's the off-road
It is the
version.
off-road
You get the-
version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think
granted,
it's-
it is $10
It's
a month.
$10 a month,
Yeah.
right?
But it's cheap insurance.
It is. Like,
You can run it. I mean, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with running
no,
it.
but it's not necessarily like, but it's not going to do you any good if you have Life 360
Right.
and
the other
and
person
you're
doesn't.
running Gaia,
Right.
and you're running Lost Riders.
Right.
Well, we're not all on the same page.
Right.
Right.
And so it's
Right.
not going to do any good because they're not going to may or may not translate over.
Right.
Right.
So whatever your rescue party, your primary, secondary, tertiary rescue group is, make sure you're all on the same page
All on the
and
same
using
page.
the same systems.
Right.
Whether it's Gaia, Lost Riders, Live
Right.
360,
Right.
Google Maps,
Right.
Onyx Off-Road.
Right.
And again, we're not saying these things, and we're not passing along the information that Whiskey has been passing along in the previous videos to scare anybody from going out and doing this.
It's
It is absolutely just a preventative measure.
Right. Be prepared.
It's just a preventative measure, and you can't be too safe.
true key to it is communication.
Yes.
Communication. And have your understood on the same page level and types of communication, whether it's text message, whether it's a phone call, whether it's
Right.
spot device, whether it's GMRS,
Right.
whether it's on Gaia, logging into each other's
And-
type ways of communicating to each other.
Right.
In case, like, hey, it's past a hard time, we haven't heard from each other, what's going on? If you know you're out there and you know it's going to be past a hard time, like, hey, I'm in some crap right now, I need to go ahead and communicate, but I'm going to be okay, but I don't want to spin my guys up. I'm going to go ahead and tell them, hey, I'm good. I'm going to be a little
Right.
bit late, but I'm good. Here's
Right.
where I'm at. Click, and we're going to look at it and say, oh, he's running
Right.
late. He just sightseeing, or he, ate too much chocolate and his blood sugar got too high, or whatever.
Right.
We're
then
going
just
to just
continue.
hang out.
Right.
And,
Continue to monitor.
yeah,
any
and
updates.
just
Right.
hang out. Yeah,
So you can do that through, if you have to.
yeah, if you have to.
You can do it through Gaia. If you have cell service for just a second,
Yeah.
you can text. If you have a spot device,
yeah.
you can send that and
Yeah.
just say, "Hey, I had a breakdown
Yeah.
that took me X amount of time." The
Yeah.
point is communication. If you haven't watched any of the previous videos and this is your first time watching this
Right,
one,
yeah.
we discussed the national official off-road channel
Yep.
is channel 16.
16.
All you got to do is just remember 4 times 4.
Right.
Right.
4
Yeah.
Right.
4 by
Right.
4 equals 16.
Right.
And there are people who do monitor that channel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether you can reach them or not,
Right.
Right.
but if you have a GMRS or UHF, VHF, depending on how your radio system
Right.
works,
Right.
Set that up. Yeah.
Right.
you can hit repeaters, and the National Forest Service does monitor channel
Yep.
16.
Right.
So you could possibly reach out to the National Forest Service. That information is imperative to know.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Like if you get somewhere where you can't reach out to anybody, I mean, you are truly on your own.
Right.
And that can literally be a life and death situation.
That's right.
Something else I touched on in an earlier video was if your machine breaks down and it is close to dark and you are in the Ozarks, it doesn't make a difference where you're at.
Right.
If it is close to dark and you are not going to have time to get camp set up because you got to find a campsite first.
Campsite.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be 10 feet away from you. It could be 100
It
yards.
could be 100 yards.
Yeah.
Now, we want to stay relatively within 100 yards.
Right. Yeah.
As close as possible, as reasonably
Visibility.
possible.
Yeah. Flat,
Yeah.
Get decent flashlight visibility.
Right.
Right.
But if it's close to nighttime, do not strap on a headlamp and go traipsing through the woods looking for a campsite because you step in a gopher hole,
Trip over.
Yeah.
trip over a rock,
Rock,
trip over
yeah.
a stick. Now all of a sudden,
Trip over a bear.
Yeah,
You've escalated
What?
rescue.
You had a mechanical problem.
Now you have a medical.
Now you have a medical problem.
Yeah.
Right.
So the best thing
Yeah.
to do in that case, get out your sleeping bag, throw it over you, cuddle up, get in your machine, and wait till morning.
Jipping a rig. Yep, absolutely.
Because you don't want to turn a mechanical injury into a medical injury.
Right, yeah.
You're going to camp inside your rig. You got food, you can cook it, you got everything you need.
What's the worst case scenario? A night rider rides up on you like, oh crap, there's a rig there. And you're like, oh crap, there's a rig here. Hey, help, you know.
Right,
and
that's something else. Now, some of these places we go, which we should have prefaced this in the beginning, are very remote. It's not that they're accessible all the time.
All the time.
Right? So, or traveled a lot. So you may end up somewhere where you're in a remote place and just by happenstance, somebody rolls in. That's not, you don't even know them. They're just strangers. However, you can tell that stranger, always carry something, a writing pad, all weather, doesn't make a difference. Carry something to write with.
Right in the rain.
Yes.
The brand, right in the rain. RITE.
Yeah.
Right in the rain. Pads and pens are your friends.
Yep. We can put a link to that down there at the bottom. Write down your name and everything else.
Yep.
Write down the phone number to your contacts and send them out of the woods. I'm not going to say don't worry about going with them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of your choice.
Yeah.
And the other thing about the spot device is, if I send you a text message, he's capable of sending a text message back to me.
Yeah,
right.
I did. I said, hey, give me like 15 minutes and I'm en route.
Right.
I had to pull up in a driveway,
Right.
unload groceries, kind of redress a little bit, and then, haven't been on the other end of that spot device. Like that makes me want like one or two.
Yeah.
Like right to now. Like they're pretty legit.
That concludes this episode. We hope that we've been helpful. If you have any questions, or if there's something else that you would like to see or like for us to cover, leave it in the comments.
Absolutely.
And we'll put links to all these other episodes and the equipment that we talked about. So you can have a really, really great time out here, and you can have a really great trip, or it can be the trip from you don't want
from
to
hell.
You just want to put it out of your mind, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, and please like and subscribe.
Oh yeah.
Please. We'll check in with you later. Whiskey out.
Deuces.